Welcome to the liberating river where spiritual freedom meets soul aligned wealth. I'm Wanda.
People forgot about the power of the tongue. So if you say money changes people, what's going to happen in somebody's mind immediately? Now, let's go back to what we were just teaching, right? So if you are talking about the environment affects how your mind moves and it's looking for safety. If you hear money changes people, well, I don't want to be a bad person. Oh, I don't want to have money because if I have money, that means I'm going to be bad. And then people would throw in money is the root of all evil. And yes, I quoted it incorrectly. It's the love of money is the root of all evil. The love of, honestly, I don't know why we just pinpoint on money. The love of anything. You can love a person too much. When you do that, you make it an idol. And I believe that's where that scripture was heading to. Because most people can get over individuals, get over circumstances and situations, but we need money in order to live. So it moves into its own little category because now it's not a thing of, oh, I can replace it with something else. No, I can't replace it with something else because I need money in order to survive. I don't necessarily need that person in my life to survive. And that's the difference. So when we were hearing money changes people or we can't afford that, in your mind it's like, okay, I can never afford that. It's always hard to get ahead. Oh, it's a hard road. The only way you make it forward is if you work harder. No. And God was always, you could look at any kind of document, manuscript, scroll, scripture, any kind of religious or spiritual documentation. God was always trying to expand our minds so we would stop thinking limitedly and helping us to fully understand that we have to stop speaking those things that are not as though they were. We have to stop talking in that language of defeat. We wake up in the morning, we're like, oh, it's going to be a hard day. You just put out there. You didn't even get out the bed. You didn't even wash. You didn't even rub your eyes yet. You opened your eyes. Oh, it's going to be a hard day. How do you know that? The same thing with money. How do you know? Oh, it's going to be hard to make money. How do you know that? That's not living in a fairy tale land. Or maybe we need to live in a fairy tale land. Maybe that's where we need to live because that's where hope has always been. When we look at kids, they live what we would call in a fairy tale land, not realistic. But you know what? They have so much life in them. They have so much love in them until we contaminate them. They have so much to give. And maybe that's why in the scriptures, they talk about, unless you come to God as a child, you really won't, I'm putting in my words, you really won't be able to experience God in his fullness. Think about that one. So it's time for us to allow our minds to stop being so educated and be as a child and say, okay, let me be in fantasy land. Let me stop always looking at stuff negatively immediately. And let me start speaking life first. Because that's the only way you will see a change. Because otherwise we will stay in this emotional interpretation based on interpretations passed down as truths from those who were in our environment. And we will always believe it's hard to get ahead. We will always believe I'm always going to be broke. My bank account is always going to look this way. And that repetition secures the wiring in your mind and in your beliefs. Not because you agree, and that piece right there is what I love. Because it's not that you believe it, because inside of you, you really feel like change can come, change is coming. But because we have experienced an environment or environments where scarcity was in the forefront, we tend to psychologically and cognitively agree with what is happening in our lives based on past conversations, not because you agree. I'll say it this way. You know why you don't agree? It's because exposure shapes your mind. So if you were exposed to money, if you were exposed to speaking life over your situation from your youth, you would have a different outcome. Your familiarity would be, oh, no, I expect it to work out for me. Because that's what I saw growing up. It's all about exposure. And that familiarity becomes the norm. So ask yourself this slowly. Dive into you, right? Which financial beliefs feel automatic? Which ones feel emotional? Which ones feel defensive? Which ones feel protective? I'm going to say it again. Which financial beliefs feel automatic? What feels automatic to you? Which ones feel emotional? Which ones feel defensive? Which ones feel protective? Those, when you answer those 4 questions, those are usually inherited, not chosen. And here is something else important you have to remember. You can respect where they came from, but you don't have to continue using them. That's up to you. You can honor your survival wisdom. You can honor it. You can honor it without living inside survival mode. It's up to you. So let's get into helping ourselves, right? Ask yourself, what did money feel like in my home? Really sit with that, or put it in a journal, write it down. Because sometimes when you see it, you're like, oh, so that's why I think this way. What did money feel like in your home? Was it calm? Was it tense? Was it avoided? Was it a secret? Did your parents or your guardian never talk about money around you? Was it controlling? Did money conversations happen openly? Or did it only happen during stressful times? Did money represent freedom? Or did it represent danger? I know these are challenging questions, but that's the only way you will purge what you don't want. I had to do that. I had to take time and sit with these same questions. These same questions I had to sit with because there was that scarcity mindset. As much as we believed in God, it was still scarcity because it was still, no, we can't do that. No, we can't do that. No, we can't do that. Nope, nope. And then there wasn't conversations. So when you sit with that and be real with yourself, you'll be able to get to the root of that And I'm talking about that which is inside of you so that you can rewire you so that you can start living out the life you actually want. Because I guarantee nobody wants to be poor. Nobody wants to barely make it. Nobody wants to feel tension all the time. Nobody. But we have it. Some people have experienced it longer than we hope. But there is hope. You have hope. You just can't give up. And always in the midst of this, finding, in the midst of this exploration of yourself, be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with yourself. These questions will stir up and reveal emotional inheritance, and it will stir up newfound emotions you didn't know was inside. And once that happens, once you sit with yourself, here is the great news. Not even good news. Here's the great news. You won't shame scarcity. You won't. I know you're probably like, what about scarcity? No, you have to think about it. We tend to categorize in order to trade one thing for the other. We put one thing down and we talk bad about it. You don't have to do that with scarcity. You don't. All you're doing is updating it because shame freezes learning. Did you think about that? Safety allows learning. Neuroplasticity shows the brain rewires through repeated exposure, under regulated conditions, not force. Do you hear that? Neuroplasticity shows the brain rewires through repeated exposure, under regulated conditions, not force, not pressure, not pretending fear is gone, exposure. So it's not about putting scarcity. No. We're not going to do that. We're exposing it. We're going to take small risks. We're going to do small negotiations. We're going to do small financial decisions made calmly. Each time you act from safety instead of fear, you weaken the old pathway. Each time you pause before panic, you strengthen the new one. Rewiring is repetition under regulation, not affirmation under pressure, because that's what we tend to do. We tend to affirm thinking that it's going to force our brain to think differently. But have you ever tried to keep eating and you're already stuffed? You haven't had a bowel movement. You haven't had time to sit and rest, but you just keep eating. Now your stomach starts to what? Hurt. You feel full. You almost feel like you need to throw up. That's pressure. You can't affirm. You can't believe under pressure. That's why you have to rewire. You have to reprogram your mind so that you think differently, which will eventually make you act differently. So no affirmation under pressure. Don't even do affirmation. That is an important distinction that really matters to your success of becoming who you really want to become. Mentally, even physically, spiritually, financially. Because many people try to think abundance while feeling fear. And the two cannot live together. It creates conflict. Real rewiring happens when your body feels safe during a new behavior. So I'm going to tell you, breathe. First of all, love yourself. It's not about blaming anybody because we all move based on our experiences. Whether it's your guardian, your parent, your great-grandparents, your grandparents, your uncles, your aunt, everybody moves based on their own experience. Now it's time for you to grab hold of your own experience and create a new life. So what does practical rewiring look like? It could look like this: increasing investments gradually instead of dramatically, practicing negotiation in low stake situations, definitely waiting 24 hours before purchases. Give yourself a moment to think versus move emotionally. Letting money sit there without reacting. That's a big one. Because a lot of times once we see the money, we going to say, oh, I have to use it for spending. I have done it. Hear me. I have done it. Money has come in. It's like, oh, I have to do this. I have to do this. Okay, when that check comes in, we automatically do it because it's a panic mode and we're reacting out of emotion because we feel we won't have money again to fill that void. Tracking spending without judgment. These are nervous system practices disguised as financial habits. Financial maturity is often emotional maturity in disguise. Did you hear that? Financial maturity is often emotional maturity in disguise. Like the wolf in sheep clothing. That's why you have to grab hold of your mind. We already know this. Scarcity hoards. Stewardship allocates. Scarcity avoids. Stewardship evaluates. Scarcity panics. Stewardship plans. Scarcity reacts. Stewardship responds. You are not eliminating caution. That's not what we're doing here. You are refining it. Yeah. Caution guided by fear creates paralysis. Caution guided by clarity creates protection. You are not trying to become reckless. I'm not telling you to become reckless. You are becoming regulated. And regulation creates capacity. Capacity creates opportunity. Opportunity creates growth. So what does this all mean? Right? Opportunity creates growth. Changing from scarcity mindset, loving on yourself, not, tearing down your environment that you was raised around. No. But what this does is help you redefine money, wealth, in you. Wealth is rarely built through emotional intensity. It is built through emotional stability. People think wealth builders are fearless. I don't think they are. I think they're just regulated. They feel fear. They feel fear. They just don't obey it automatically. That is governance. And governance is leadership applied internally. That's why I keep saying you have to work on you and the inside so that the outside mirrors it. You are not broken. You were wired for survival. But survival wiring is not your destiny. It is not your destiny. You are allowed to update. You are allowed to expect more. You are allowed to want more. You are allowed to feel safe with money. You are allowed to grow beyond what you witnessed. You are allowed to grow beyond your family members, your friends, your circle, your environment. Rewiring, though. Rewiring takes patience. And patience is strength. It's calm strength. Rewiring takes awareness. Again, awareness is strength. Rewiring takes consistency. Again, that's strength. And understanding your wiring is key. It may be one of the strongest financial decisions you ever make because it will help you achieve whatever goals you were trying to achieve. May your awareness outgrow old fear. May your nervous system learn new safety. May wisdom interpret inherited scarcity. May stewardship replace reaction. May patience build what urgency never could. May you remember, growth is not betrayal. Expansion is not danger. And safety can be learned. Until next time, keep flowing in freedom.